Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going? And welcome to the pilot episode of Cyberpunk 2077. I almost called it Night City Wire, but no, that's the thing that they're doing. Adventures in Night City. The idea behind this show was to do just sort of a limited time series, handful of episodes, maybe less. Bring in some guests and just kind of talk about this game that is potentially the most hyped game that we've ever seen. And does it live up to that hype? Joining me once again is Elise. How's it going, Elise?
Good. You?
Oh, pretty good. So yeah,
Awesome.
for this pilot episode, it's going to be basically our first impressions. The game just came out. We both have a bunch of time into it, and so yeah, we'll kind of just go over a few topics and kind of give you guys our thoughts. So, kind of starting with you, Elise. First of all, what system are you playing this on, and do you know how many hours do you have in so far?
Um, okay, I'll have to do an estimate of the number of hours. I am playing it on Stadia.
Okay.
Kind of a combination between my phone and my PC. So, I don't know if you really need to know my computer specs or anything like that because it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, not on Stadia. You can play this on a toaster.
Correct. My phone's a Pixel 4, so I've got the small one, not the big one. I haven't tried it on my 2 yet, which is the bigger one. So that is an adventure on the little screen, but it works. So Stadia.
And then
So I'm playing it on.
did you say roughly about how much time you have in
Oh,
it?
I'm sorry. I forgot that part. I probably have somewhere between 10 and 12 hours in.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. It's gotten a little foggy after my first, when it dropped, we played from 7:30 to 4 a.m. and then yeah. I took the 2 days off. And then I got up and started playing again about sometime between 10 to 9:45, 10, and then I hit the title screen at noon-ish the next day. And then I've played probably about 5 hours. So maybe I'm over 12. I'm still foggy, but I've done more than 10. I'm less than 20, somewhere in there.
Okay. So I'm playing it on a very high-end PC and with an RTX card and all that, and I'm at about 15 hours. Now, I think I want to go back to the Stadia thing for a second, because I'm sure there's a lot of people in chat who have heard of it, but you don't really hear too many people talking about it. So can you kind of talk about Stadia a little bit, how it works, and then it's literally a service where you, like you just said, you're playing Cyberpunk, I'm assuming on max graphics on your phone. So what does that work?
Works great. So I guess just to use an example, there was a lot of brouhaha about issues on PlayStation 4 and performance and 5 and performance and Xbox. I had none. Because Stadia, basically all of the I have this graphics card and this much power to the hood, all that happens on Google's side. I just sign in. I'm playing it actually through the browser. So I just sign into the browser application of Stadia, click on the game, and all of the hard work happens on their side. And I'm just entering their server feed, basically. And that's how Stadia works. So, and you can play on anything that you have the ability to access the Google Stadia servers. So, I have an app on my phone. I play on the browser on my computer, and I can go back and forth, and it seamlessly just allows me to pick up where I left off. I can stream also now through Stadia. That's like a new thing to YouTube. You just click the button and go. Screenshots, all that stuff all gets saved on the Stadia like application browser. So um, th- I've played even on my 2015 Chromebook, and it looks pretty much the same no matter where I go.
Yeah.
So
So when you're playing on your
4K, I think,
phone,
and I have Pro, so I'm getting 4K video.
yeah.
It's just that none of my screens are 4K, so I can't appreciate the fact that I'm getting 4K video, but cost me $10 a month
Yeah.
for that. So
So now when you're playing on like your phone, are you using a controller then?
yeah, they have had Stadia, of course, because nobody knows about it, and it got all that bad press at the beginning, not undeserved. Um, has been trying to do a big hard push to get more people to know about the service. So I got the free Google Chrome cast adapter, dongle, whatever you call it, and the controller because I subscribe to another Google service. So I got it for free. And I got another one for pre ordering Cyberpunk 2077 on from Stadia as well. So I get another one of those. Um, so yes, on my phone I use the controller because it's just easier. You can use the on-screen controls, but I've tried that on Destiny and it's painful.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Now I can use with a micro MSD or USB cord. I have also played using a PlayStation 4 controller. I have a friend who plays using a Bluetooth Xbox One controller. So you don't have to have the Stadia controller, but it is way easier, in my opinion, to use Stadia controller, but it's not required.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool because it's like all the chatter out there about Cyberpunk's been about, the performance and the bugs, PC versus Xbox, PlayStation. And I don't think I've heard anybody talk about Stadia. And I think you're probably the only person that I know that's playing it that way. So
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty
I
cool.
found it. I found it really funny. Paul Tassi, who has like done nothing but trash Stadia, I've got to be honest with you. Every time they have like a press conference or whatever, he's like, yeah, Stadia, like Xbox is going to kill them. He came out and put a tweet out the day that this dropped. And it was ready to go at 7. We were just late. Um, my friend and I played it concurrently at the same time, and we were late getting on, but it was ready at 7 o'clock on the dot. Um, and there's no downloading either. Like it was ready. There was no preloading. There was no downloading. There was none of that. It was 7 o'clock when they said that it was gonna be available to play. It was ready. Um, he was like, "Wow, the only platform that had no issues was Stadia." And that was it. Like he had a bunch of gap. He had a big gap in between that. The platform that worked great, Stadia. And there was nothing. It was just funny. Yeah. So we have had nothing, and actually, even bug wise, which I don't know if you wanted to get to later, but even bugs, I haven't seen a ton of bugs on my version, which I was prepared for a ton of them.
Mm-hmm.
Hardly any. I've seen maybe 10 that I was like, oh, that's a bug. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's a bug. Oh, that's a bug. Other than that, no complaints.
Yeah, that's cool. Because, yeah, I know when the game launched at like 6 p.m. my time or whatever it was, like Steam as an example, like it crashed Steam and the people couldn't patch it and all this and that. And yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was interesting.
Yeah, I felt so bad for everybody, and I was just trucking along, going, "Y'all been slamming Stadia, but we cruising."
Yeah.
So, yeah, which I think is good for them. It was good PR for them that it went off without a hitch. The engineers had their stuff together and were ready to go and took care of everything, and it's great. I hope they get some pros. State is not for everyone. Um, I think one of the big things that is a plus is folks like me who I cannot sit in front of my PlayStation or my PC all the time. There are times where I have to do a lot of go and wait through adulting or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't afford to go out and buy, a new 4K TV and then update my video card all the time. And, I'm going to be playing on 4 Gen for a little while for PlayStation 4 for a little bit longer before I upgrade because they've had some issues. But also Christmas and whatever else. And so Stadia is kind of a nice alternative that for $10 and then the cost of a game, I can have a similar experience as you with, your good rig and ray tracing and all that stuff on my phone
Mm-hmm.
while I'm sitting waiting for hockey practice to be over. So for me, it's great. And there isn't anything else right now yet. xCloud may do it, but so far xCloud is still in beta. It may have the potential to do something similar, but that remains to be seen. And right now, it's great. The other issue is, if you've already bought games, then you have to buy them again on Stadia, and you don't play with the same people. You're only playing with Stadia people, and there's like a handful of them, which can make some games a challenge. But for single player games, I have no complaints right now.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So kind of going back into Cyberpunk, what character path did you end up going with?
I went with Nomad.
Okay.
It's kind of me. I was like the spacer something. Maybe I did Colonist my first time on Mass Effect, so I'm kind of that, country girl, tries to do the right thing type, fight against the man one. So I did Nomad. Yeah, and female Nomad.
Yep. So I ended up going with Corpo because I wanted to try and live that lifestyle and just kind of see how it went. So it's like I want to be like the business guy and stuff like that. And then story didn't quite go the way that I thought it would. So that's interesting.
That's pretty funny. Like like I said, my friend and I were playing concurrently, so he was talking about all this stuff that was happening, something about throwing up or something else, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm over here driving my car around, getting harassed because I'm one of those, stinky nomad people, and where's my clan? And I'm trying to be shady and just get my illegal stuff, and I have to smuggle across the border and leave me alone." And he's over here talking about so I was like, take the nomad goody two shoe person.
So we've both played a lot of games. What did you think of the character creator in this one?
Is okay. They went all out in some areas and not in others. I think I need to go back in and do it again. I've seen people who've said they spent an hour in the character creator, and I was just kind of like, why? I thought Inquisition's character creator, from the actual refining of your features and your choices, especially like the color choices for skin tone and all that stuff, was way better. Like you had way more control of those things. They went all out for other areas. Like you could have like swirly red, like optical illusion eyes. And that kind of stuff, which is cool. You could, of course, I'm sure maybe some who are tuning into this, you could control other parts of your body that normally aren't visible in video games, which was interesting. Your nail length, your teeth color, like, you know what I mean? Like the practical stuff, they kind of didn't go so much in, but the weird kind of outlier stuff they did, which I thought was just weird. I put a fro on my character and I was super excited to get that because you hardly ever see curly hair in games. So, and the fact that the hair moves and stuff with you is really nice, but you would expect that, right? From CD Projekt, since they had that in The Witcher. So
yeah, I basically agree with you. I do think there's a lot of other games that have better character creators. I actually saw one comment. Somebody said that the best character creator to come out this year was actually in the new Demon Souls remake. Which was surprising for that kind of game where you really don't consider that kind of game to be a big character creator, type game. Right. And one comment I'll read here in chat, since we're talking about character creation, which I completely agree with. Rotting Gamer said, no transmog system or preview in Cyberpunk, and I have no idea how they launched this game without at least a
Yeah.
transmog type system.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I have to put hot pants on because it's my highest
Mm-hmm.
armor, along with snow boots, and then this hat, which completely takes away my fro that I was celebrating on my character to get more armor, just and gives me straight hair to put that hat on is disappointing. And I started putting the hat on because I was going into higher level areas, and we can get into that a little bit later, and I needed the extra armor. And I just it was there was a tear when all of a sudden my hair changed from my cute, big giant red fro to this straight bob kind of looking hair underneath my do-rag.
Yeah. And again, one of the reasons what I played Corpo is because I kind of wanted to, have the nice suit and stuff like that. And here I'm walking around with like a baseball cap, sunglasses, leather pants, and I'm like, am I a character from Watch Dogs now? What is this? I don't.
Yeah, mine looks like I'm from like a cyber goth um cafe, but then I also got some corpo like dresses and stuff, and I'm just like, and I'm supposed to wear that with the snow boots. Like
I mean,
I
that's how we
just
do it in Iowa.
I okay, well, you guys rock on.
We got snow last
I'm
night.
thinking I'm jealous. I would like to snow, but that is not the look I'm going for with my. I think right now I have effectively, the vests that the road workers
Yeah.
wear.
Yep.
That's what I'm got on right now, on top of my um, tank top, which had more armor than my combat turtleneck. Like it's yeah. Anyway, so you have all this control in the content, the character creator, and then you get out in the game and you are at the mercy of drops, or if you want to go spend all your money to go find some armor, which may or may not be better than what drops in the world, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And Chad is definitely right. And you don't get to see your character that much, but it's still like one of those things where it's like you're playing an RPG and you want to look a certain way, and
Yep.
you know.
Yep. Your look is part of your like head canon, which is very important for RPGs. It is a role playing game. So if you cannot play the role you want, then that, affects your satisfaction of the game. So
Yeah. And something else that just popped into my head, they are doing a multiplayer thing for this game. I don't know if we have too many details on it, but they are doing it.
hmm. I that sounds somewhat familiar, but I don't remember if it was going to be a PvE or a PvP. PvE might be fun.
Hmm.
If you could do co-op or something, that would be fun.
Yeah, as far as
Um,
I know, they've said very little on it.
but if it's PvP, mm, I- I'm, We'll get to the topic of why I'm grimacing at PvP. The thoughts of why I'm grimacing with this game in PvP.
Yeah. Well, we'll go ahead and move on a little bit to kind of a little bit of a dual topic, sort of like the world and then the mapping system. How do you think they did in this game when it comes to just
Okay, so
world environment and stuff like that?
we're just talking about like the art, the art direction, sort of, right?
Yeah,
Is
kind
that
of.
what you
Yeah.
mean by the world? Um, okay, so I actually wrote out like I had a whole paragraph about this in my notes on my thoughts. Um, I am less satisfied with the kind of aesthetic of this game, just because it's personal preference. I prefer my games to have some prettiness to them, and I've seen other people say, "Oh, it's pretty in a post-apocalyptic way." Mm, I'm not sure I would agree with that, from my personal opinion. It is cool the way they have um, uh, basically designed kind of an amalgamation of Tokyo, Hong Kong, and maybe like in LA, kind of put all those together. And that's what Night City kind of reminds me of. But it's just kind of gritty.
Mm-hmm.
The overcast of it, it's always kind of gray, brownish, tinged. It just, everything, there's this, everything is kind of dirty. I'm saying. Comparing that to my darling favorite game right now, which is Ghost of Tsushima, which you are playing now,
Yep.
is kind of hard because that game is exceptionally pretty. So going from Cyberpunk to that, now I understand that their narrative and all that stuff, this is deliberate, and I get it. It's just, for me, I'm kind of like, I can appreciate what they've done, but then at the same time go, now. I love the way they handle quests and helping you find the things on the map. I think their map is great. I
It's
love,
very Ubisoft, I would
yes,
say.
it's great. Um, there's all kinds of letting you know what you can do in the area, and still there are things for you to find. Um, there are times where you actually have to overhear something to go to a quest, to find the quest, even in this immersive, very detailed map that you get. Which, so they've tried to do both things, which I think is great. Um, I have I am directionally challenged, especially when we're talking about multi-level environments. They do an excellent job of helping you get there, um, if you need it. So for me, I think the map is great. I thought the UI for the map is great. Um, I have had an issue with having quests not trigger. That's probably been my biggest glitch that I've had. Right now, I'm working on the Delamain quest, and I can't get it to acknowledge that I'm where I'm supposed to be to move the quest forward. Like, it won't
Interesting.
trigger. Um, so I don't know what that's about. But other than that, I have no complaints about the map. It's just the world, and also just the overall tone is probably another issue that I'm having, with where they were going with what this world presents as you and a character in it. It's really kind of, there's an underlying hopelessness sort of underneath everything that kind of feeds into all the other kind of aesthetic of the game that just kind of gets to me a bit. So, yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I'll say about it, and this kind of goes back to the different versions a little bit. So, since you're on Stadia, maybe you haven't seen this, maybe you have, but it almost seems like when you're walking around, you'll be like, all right, this looks nice, nice ray tracing here. And then all of a sudden you run into a spot or maybe some NPCs and it's like, this looks unfinished. And then it's like, all right, then this is fine. So I run into that a little bit. Have you seen that at all? Or
Well, see, I don't get the ray tracing.
mm-hmm.
I don't. That's the one thing we don't have on Stadia is the ray. At least I don't believe we get the ray tracing, or maybe it's because my monitor can't handle it. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
it wouldn't be a monitor thing. It'd
um,
be whether or not their servers have it on.
I don't know. I don't think we get tracing, but I mean, there is some kind of uneven with graphical quality, which I do see. Um, they do a really good job on the main quest stuff, but when you start to get out um, into the side quests, and especially if you get down to the gig level, and I don't know how many gigs you've done, or where you're going kind of off the beaten path to these little things where you're helping the police,
Yeah,
with
I want to
stuff.
say around 5, maybe. I don't really remember.
I see it more there where everything isn't as detaily, and maybe that's what you're referring to. So I do. Um, in my brain, it didn't click as much because I see this a lot, especially we'll take Andromeda. They did similar things where they kind of the side quests and the out of the way areas that you went to weren't as pretty as the main quest ones because that's what they were focusing on. So I do kind of see that, but um, I don't. It didn't click in my head as much for me. Maybe again because I don't. We don't get the ray tracing. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you because you have the benefit of having the new hotness kind of features that you really see where the new hotness is highlighting where they didn't maybe take their time there. And that kind of feeds into the kind of the debate that's going on now, right?
Right.
About that they rushed it. I don't know if 8 years really you could call it rushed, but they bit off a lot and they couldn't get it all done. And now we've got executives apologizing and Metacritic taking a hit, and but 90% is not really much of a hit.
Yeah.
Although Steam is 7 out of 10 right now, maybe because of the launch issues. But yeah, I could see what you're talking about.
Yeah, I almost wonder if at some point down the road we'll get like a deeper story of the overall production of this game, because it kind of reminds me of the Anthem thing a little bit, where Anthem was in development for what 7 or 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they ended up all right working on it for a couple years, scrap it, work on it for a year, scrap it, and then so it wasn't really a full on necessarily straight 8 years. It ended up being like in like little chunks. So I almost wonder if something like that happened with this game, or if it really was just a straight up 8 years. And, yeah.
I mean, we had some hints about that could be another scenario that could be too. And I don't have a dog in either hunt. I guess I eagerly await for somebody to blow some expose about the real development, just like you. But if you remember, what was it, E3 maybe 2 years ago or a year and a half ago? Them saying, "Oh, the game's fully playable. We're just fluffing, basically." Do you
Yeah,
remember
that was
them coming out and saying that? That was like a year, 2 years ago. I don't think it was this past PAX, but it was like maybe the year before where they were like, "Oh, we're done.
mhm.
We're just, refining. We're just whatever." I wonder if they weren't adding additional stuff instead of refining at that point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the point where they should have been bug cleaning up, making sure like graphical stuff was even, all that stuff. And if they weren't actually adding more quest elements, more stuff to fill out the world, because it is that it's a open world in the flavor of Skyrim and Odyssey, where you can't swing a dead cat without hitting something to do.
Yep.
And that's great and all, except for that takes a lot of time and a lot of resources to do that. And it's not necessarily, I don't know, in my opinion, it's not always needed because the days of people wanting 100-hour adventure, like the player base across the board wanting that, in my opinion, has waned over
Mhm.
the last couple. How many games that are only 10 to 20 hours, if you saw, that have made best of lists and people are not feeling they had a bad value and by rights were cheaper? Like Squadrons was fairly well received.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of big games.
Control was fairly well received.
Yep.
Like I you don't have to have Skyrim open world as much anymore. And I just wonder whether or not they weren't doing that. Um,
Yeah. I want to say if we are talking just AAA games just this
mm,
year and games that were up for, I guess, awards, let's say, I can only think of two that would meet that requirement, and you just mentioned one. The other would be Miles Morales.
Just finished it. Great game. So,
Yeah, I want
yeah.
to play it really bad, but I want to wait for a PS5 because I want the best version.
Yeah, totally understand. Um, it that game was nice and compact. Finished it in 4 days. I mean, I obviously I'm not playing 4 total days. If I had, I mean, all day, I would have been done probably in 2. Um,
Yeah, I think it's a 10 to 15.
yeah. So, yeah, I never meet those hours. I'm always over. Whatever. Like everything takes me twice as long because I like stealth in and I'm like super like whatever. So, but it was a nice game. Didn't come they feel I didn't get my money's worth. There's still more stuff to do. We just did the main quests. My daughter and I played it together again. Um, there's more quests we could do. Just, it was great. I can tell you I will never be a completionist on this game ever ever. Looking at the map is overwhelming and I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, because
And I will get
there was
bored.
that one CDPR dev. I think it was their lead QA tester who was like, "Yeah, I'm at 150 hours and I'm not done yet." It's like, yeah, he's
Mm-mm.
probably 100% trying to 100% the game.
Right. As well he
Yeah,
should. Like that was his job, right?
yeah.
Um, but I don't there are a group of people who 100% want that. Um, and I absolutely believe that there should be games for that. And because they only play, you know, that's the experience that they want and they're only playing a handful of games maybe at max every year or maybe even less than that. And that's what they want. Totally get it, but I don't know that is the majority attitude of players right now with the clip of games. And we already know that the majority of people who buy games don't finish them.
Mm-hmm.
And at the pace of video games releasing, the game industry is not allowing us to have that kind of experience. If you want to play the new hotness is dropping monthly, and that's not even including expansions and to our forever games that we have out there, um, including like the new FIFA and the new Madden and the new Call of Duty. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
just don't know how we as a consumer base support huge 200-hour games to truly make that kind of manpower, time, and effort worth it. I don't know. I guess we'll find out how many people actually put in more than 50 hours in this game.
Yeah.
Let's say.
And this year in particular was a little bit more crazy because you had the double console launch and you had,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, 10 or 15 games all come out within a week. They're
Mm-hmm.
in November, so it was absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Um, eh, yeah. And then let's not just discount, we can't discount the real life that's going on in everybody's world right now. It's not normal for game developers or for players and consumers. And yeah, we had all kinds of time at the beginning of the year when no games were coming out. At Animal Crossing. Doom Eternal, which everybody kind of forgot about. And then all
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden it showed up on the Game of the Year list for um, the Games Awards, and everybody was like, Doom Eternal. And I was like, yeah, it was a great game. Like, it had issues on release, but so did this one. So, it's a great game. Um, so there's no control that they can have over that, but next year is going to be a hot mess too. COVID's not going away next year until everybody, until the vaccine like hits and there's any other, changes. You're looking at least through spring of this continuing. So yeah, how's that going to affect players? And yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
This game's been 8 years in development. You can't change on a dime because the world changed.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
Next thing I want to go ahead and talk about is the Flathead Bot mission, which is one of the first big missions in the game. And from what I've seen so far, and of course I'd like to hear your opinion on this, that mission appears to be a fairly unique mission in the game, whereby there's about 4 or 5 different ways that you can actually tackle that mission. This is also the mission, I want to say 2 years ago at E3, they released like a 60-minute, like their first big gameplay. And this was the mission they showed. And this was the big thing that they were telling everybody, like, all right, you're going to be able to do every mission in the game like 5 different ways and all this. And that, other than that one mission, I have not seen any other missions that you can do, generally speaking, more than maybe about 2 ways. Like stealth or non-stealth. But like,
Oh, you mean how you progress through the mission, or how you get from progress mission from point A to point B, not necessarily the level design?
so a
Are
little
you
bit of
talking both?
yeah, a little
Okay.
bit of both. So here's how we can start this. I'll tell you how I went through that mission. Then you can say how you did it, and then we can kind of go from there. So my example would be is because I was playing Corpo, I wanted to try and take the Corpo route for it. So I called the Militech agent, which is the lady. I met with her. She gave me, and again, just meeting with her, you had multiple options on what you could or couldn't do with her. I ended up taking a cred chip from her, which had a virus. I then removed the virus, went to the Maelstrom gang, gave them the credit chip, paid for the bot. Then the Militech attacked us. I helped Maelstrom defend against Militech, and that ended the mission.
Wow.
So, how did you do that one?
Wow. Um, so I actually sort of kind of had almost all three but like path forwards open, and then just stumbled in and closed things as I went along. Does that make sense? I met with the Militech lady.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted me to use the credit chip. I said no. So then she stormed off.
Okay.
That's how I didn't know that there was a virus on it. That's pretty amazing. Um, then I progressed with Evelyn for a little bit and was hedging my bets to go down her path, and cut out Dexter. And I ended up, just because of a dialogue choice somewhere, that got cut off. So I ended up meeting with the Maelstrom people, paying for it myself because I had done all kinds of quests because I wanted cash, because I was trying to pay off for my parts to the Ripper Doc. So I had mad cash. And I ended up paying for it myself and then walking out and saying hi to the, what is it, the Militech people who come to shut
Yeah.
them down later. They like talked to me for a minute, walked in, and I walked out. That's how I actually got the bot. Now, are we gonna ask about then what happens at the hotel, or
No,
how
not
you
yet.
did the hotel one? Okay. So,
So
that's
go ahead.
how I did. No, that's how I did that. Your choices matter, at least in that mission in this game. Now, I am now working on the one about, how do I describe it without spoilering? I'm now on one of the main missions after you get past the title screen, right?
Okay.
Where you have 3 ways again of getting to fixing the main problem that you're going to deal with for the rest of the game, I assume. And I have a certain actor now talking to me. So I have again done the exact same thing where I've opened up all three options and have progressed all three options to basically the same point. So I'm not sure whether I'm sure somewhere along the line I'm going to have the same thing happen to me where I'm going to make a dialogue choice that's going to that's going to knock off one of those choices. So it feels like the same as the Flathead mission
Mm-hmm.
where I'm at now. Whether or not it continues that way, I don't know. But so far, that is the only mission that I have that I've had so far that's that way.
Okay.
The other side ones usually have um, multiple, let's say, mission design choices that you can make to get from the beginning to getting paid. Um, but not, hey, there's three NPCs, major NPCs that are offering you deals to get the thing you're trying to get through, except for this main mission.
Okay. And that was basically my question. It seemed like CDPR, that was the mission that they showed, and they're like, oh yeah, every mission in the game is gonna have like 1,000 options to do it, and it's like, really, that's the only one that I've run into that's that detailed. And a lot of the other ones, some of them are literally just either like run and gun or stealth your way in, or maybe they have one other option. And here, real quick, Linewalker in chat, he was saying when he did the Spiderbot mission, he just went right to Maelstrom, killed them all, and walked out. and so,
I mean, that was a way to think about it too. That didn't occur to me.
mm-hmm.
Lots of things don't. You bring you and how you play games, right, to a game when you have these kind of choices. So that would have fit the way so far that I suck at the stealthing in this game. So even when I try, I tend to break stealth, and so then I end up having to run and gun anyway. So, um, that that's pretty cool to hear. Um, I've noticed too a lot of the games too. This game is very old school in some ways, and I'm sure you'll probably touch on it later. But with your ability selection, feels very old school RPG to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know what you're doing, you then don't understand how you can use the abilities that you just chucked points into. I forget that my hacking basically and my intelligence is really high. And so my butt should be going to a control room and hacking all the things in there and then walking through. And I never remember to do that.
Yeah, and that's basically how I am playing Corpo hacker with like submachine guns. So it's like I'm literally like I'm hacking cameras, I'm hacking dudes. It's like I'm doing all that, and when I get my points, I've been pretty much been putting my points into intelligence, and then what is the other one? Tech something? I forget exactly.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
the one down. It's the one down here in the like lower left hand,
mm-hmm.
like it's that box down here at the bottom. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I did tech and cool. And then intelligence was my next one. That's not how I'm playing.
Yeah.
I should have done body and the one over here. And something else. And you just don't know the first time you're out. The learning curve in this game is high. You don't realize it, but when you're doing the points and all that stuff, it really is. If you've never played an RPG before, an old school RPG before, like you're not. I really don't think people realize what putting a point in cool means.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was like the chance or the luck thing in Elder Scrolls games. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That one. That's what I thought cool was. No, it's more like your stealthing and stuff. Is what it is. Um, so yeah, I wish I had a reset button because I totally would have reset my points and moved them somewhere else. I wish there was a function like Skyrim had where the more you use something, like the the experience on that was higher, and so you
Right.
could really see what you were using, and then you could put your points in accordingly. You don't really have either one of those. You do a little bit because things level. Um, by the way, if you want to increase your stealth skills, even if you're crappy at it, dumping bodies into the bin levels your stealth skills. Just a little tip for people playing the game. Go kill everybody, go dump the bodies in there. Your stealth will go up. It's just funny.
Yeah, and kind of going back to what you were saying about RPG and customization a little bit, this game does have a lot of options when it comes to that. Like you click on the button for what is it, cyberware, and it's like your body comes up with like I don't know, like 30 boxes or whatever the heck it is, stuff you can do. So there's just like a lot that you can actually do as far as that customization and passive stats and all that stuff, which is pretty impressive.
And there's so much to loot. That's
Yes.
another reason why it takes me so much longer to play games like this because I have a compulsive issue to need to pick up things on the ground. So, um, I went into my menu yesterday and pulled it up and realized I had all these cybernetics that I had just picked up or gained by doing this side quest that I just inadvertently finished that I hadn't been putting on my character. Um, so there's that, and it pops up at the bottom in those the tech when you get stuff. And then occasionally, if you get like a gun or a weapon or something, it'll pop up on the other side of the picture of it. But so much is happening in this game that you kind of get like input overload. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't key into those alerts that, oh, I guess I should go and put some more stuff on. Oh, I got another hand. Like I need to put a new hand on, or which I think is a failing is a strong word. I think that's something that maybe
Yeah, I
they
think the
could have done
game,
better.
yeah, the game has a major problem with showing what you just looted, and there's also a major delay with it. So it's
Mhm.
like you'll go on the ground, you'll pick up 10 items, and it's like, what did I just loot? And then in the, what is it, lower left? Like 30 seconds later, it's like gun. And then it's
Right.
like 10 seconds later, gun. But you're like, I just did that like a minute ago. And you're just now like popping up.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something going on with that.
Right. Or when you hack, um, okay, so when you dismantle things, you get the same thing, only it's on the right hand side and it's not pictures, it's text,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's word text, you know, common tech part, uncommon tech part. Or when you have to do the hack when you jack in
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to get like dollars and stuff from the system and all that kind of stuff, that comes up in the actual UI of your hacking screen. Like trying to put together all these bits and pieces of what you have is what you're getting, what you're having. If you're trying to do crafting in this game, good luck because it's very overwhelming to me to be able to figure out what materials I have and what I could do with them. And that almost you need to go in saying I'm going to craft. It feels like in this game, it's not on the fly fluid like so many other open world games of the past have been. Um, and the inventory UI is just it's very overwhelming. The map UI is great. The inventory UI is, in my opinion, it's Andromeda level for
Yeah.
me.
I mean, it's definitely, I mean, there's so many games that do something similar, like Destiny and stuff, where it's like, here's your gun picture. You click on the gun picture, and then it like expands out, and it's like, oh, here's your gun, all your guns or whatever. And then
Yeah,
it's like trying to show your rarities in that and your comparison and all that stuff.
yeah. But like if you pick up food, I pick up food and drinks all the time, all the time. It's there. Oh, look, I can get it. And actually, that's a nice little way to get some cash, especially at the beginning of the game. By the way, another tip for people. Um, you pick up 20 coffees and or five coffees at $10 a piece, that's 50 credits. Like, do that a few times and you up to 1,000 in no time.
Hmm.
um but you have to go into all items to get to those, and they're everywhere. So I had easily 50 of them in the first hour of the game that I needed to clear out of my inventory. And it's effectively like potions from, old school, you know, the RPGs or whatever is what the food and drinks are in this game. You don't need 50 of them. It's like carrying a whole bunch of soups in Skyrim. You don't need them, and you get also a health pack. Like, it's just very overwhelming if you want to find this one thing, and the UI is really hard to find. Um, so it is what it is. The game, you trade offs, and that's what they decided to do on there. But that's just that's just me. So I agree with you that the main quests seem to be where they put all their choices matter kind of um, heavy lifting in. Further along in the other ones, there's a different way you attack the problem, but how you get the quest and how you end the quest is pretty much the same. It's just how you get from starting it to finishing it. You have some play um,
Yeah.
with it.
So
I will say, oh, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just with quests, this is very much like Skyrim. The main quests have been interesting, but the haha funny memorable ones are the side quests.
Yeah.
And you can fail them. My favorite so far is, I'm going to try and make this kid family friendly here. My favorite one so far has been the one, and I failed it, where a gentleman comes to you. Did you do this one where he's coming to you clutching his nether regions, saying that he needs help, and there's smoke coming out of his hands over his nether regions?
Is that guy got orange hair?
I can't remember. He had on like a blue shirt, or
Because I'm wondering if that's the Jesse Cox quest that I haven't done yet.
I don't. It was like a random quest that I went into the area and he showed up with a question mark over his head.
Do you have to
It
help him
was not like
find
a
his pants or something like that?
no, you're
No? Okay.
helping him get to a Ripper dock before his enhancement implant explodes. That's the quest. And I failed because I went too slow. And it was just funny. Like, I had no idea what was going on. He just talking about, and there was banter back and forth. He was like, "Oh," like he's moaning in the side seat, and you're like, "Oh, did you get the Mr. Stud implant?" And he goes, "Yep." And you character, and you go, "Yep, yep," every time, or something like that. Like, it's and then yeah, the reason why I failed it is a beef that I have with this game that we might talk about maybe, so I won't continue on. But um there's little gems like that in this game that are just like Skyrim, and I think The Witcher, someone mentioned too, that the cute kind of heartwarming stuff is kind of off the beaten path.
Hmm.
The main quest line is business, all business, and then you want that kind of environmental flavor, you got to do the side quests and the, you know, kind of gig-ish quests.
Hmm. Well, I think probably the last big subject we're going to cover actually has to do with just the overall gunplay with the game, because we've both played a fair amount of shooters, and at least for me, the gunplay in this game is very average. There's nothing that special about it.
You're being generous. I would call it below average. And as I've said, I think on Twitter, I've been playing Destiny since Beyond Light happened. Probably my primary game right now, up until this release. And then on the weekends, I'm kind of mixing it up with like, Tsushima for a little while,
Mhm.
Morales for a little while. I got to go check out Grounded again. Um, those. I'm going to pick up a couple of, I downloaded Haven. I'm going to try Solitaire Conspiracy. So, um, whatever. But going from Destiny, which Bungie is known for
Yep.
their gunplay and everything being excellent, to this was just
And I
like,
Yeah, and I will say that sometimes in games like this, they start you out with like the crappy weapons, and those weapons always feel bad. And I thought, maybe once we get deeper into the game, it'll get better. And it seems like that's not the case.
mm-mm. And I'm not even talking about that. Like, I give it that,
Hmm.
but like a headshot does not kill them. What? Like, I got red crit headshots, and the dude kept coming at me with his sword. Um, a red crit headshot is generally a kill shot in any other game. Like, drop them kill shot. Does a heck of a lot of damage, and I only had to shoot him maybe once or twice after that. But I'm used to that being, a headshot and maybe one other whatever. So just um and I'm not sure, melee might be more effective in this game than shooting.
Yeah, it sounds like it is. Yeah.
Um which would be uncommon for a game where all of the promotional information is guns. Like, do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, I went into this assuming that melee would be a, oh my gosh, you know, um, red button emergency, but I, I don't know, and I don't know if that's because they are because of the whole kind of Asian flavor that underpins this game. If that was a choice or not, I don't know. But yeah, I it is not the gun, not as good as Destiny 2. Not
Yeah.
not.
And I don't know what difficulty you're playing on, but from what I've seen, the higher difficulty you go, just the more spongy they get. And so a lot of
Um
people are definitely not happy with that. And I think, I think I think it's probably Division that also had this sort of like story behind it, where people wanted Division to be like you just said, you headshot them, they're dead, and instead it's like, oh, they take 5 shots to the head and they're still alive, you know.
I
So
think
it's
we've just been trained that way, right? I mean, your Call of Duties, your Destinies, your Halos, they were designed that that was considered a skill shot, and so therefore they rewarded you for making the skill shot, with not having to work so hard, get dropping your target. This game has decided to go more the melee kind of design, which there is no really one hit kill unless you had a finisher mechanic. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
And it's almost like they took that and just put it on guns. That doesn't surprise me because The Witcher didn't have guns, right?
Right.
It was swords. So I wondered while I was playing this if they just kind of took the combats, like scaffolding that they had from The Witcher, and applied it to here, and then just tried to finesse the guns. That would make sense for what we've got. But for me, I am absolutely used to, you get a red quit headshot, that is a kill shot, and you move on to the next thing that's mobbing you. And it becomes kind of challenging. And I'm sure for people who play on a higher level, I'm not playing on a high level. Be honest with you, I never do the first time through a game. Um, Especially a game that has choices and dialogue and romances. I don't, because I'm paying attention to those things. But them, you get mobbed at times,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and you not being able to drop people and move to the next one, I'd be throwing my controller if I were playing on like Nightmare or something, because you can't. Um, Yeah, okay. So they want you to prep your way in. Okay, I would understand that, but then even that doesn't drop. When you breach and do the whole thing where you lower people's resistances, especially at the beginning of the games, that doesn't make that much difference to being able to control waves of enemies coming to you. So I'm not completely understanding their combat design choices so far. But if you just want to talk about gun feel, if you want a Destiny or whatever Halo experience, this is not the game for you. Or go with swords and melee weapons, of which there's lots in the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're getting pretty close to wrapping up the first episode here.
Can I complain though, really quick before we go? Driving the car is horrible.
Yes, I completely agree.
Like Mako level horrible. Okay, continue. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say before we wrap up, I want to get sort of your just overall opinion of what you think so far.
It has been good enough for me to exclusively play it for the last what? So I played Thursday. I started the day it released, right? So Wednesday. Off and on, except for playing Miles Morales. So the majority of my video game time has been spent with this game. And not because I was making myself play. So it is absolutely worth a buy if you are into all the stuff we're talking about. I mean, if you're a COD lover, maybe not. Like, if that's the kind of game you like, this may not be for you as much, but it's really good. The story has been engaging. Keanu, yeah, I have opinions about Keanu and where he's coming in and all that stuff, but it's pretty cool to have Keanu in the game. So I mean, it's good so far. I don't feel like I have been robbed in my $70 purchase of the game. We'll see. Haven't got to the romances yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I might have more opinions then, but so far it's been pretty good, except for shooting sucks, driving the car sucks, so I stopped driving the car and just walk everywhere and fast travel.
Do you think you'll beat it?
Will I beat it before the end of the year?
Well, I mean, just in general.
Don't know. Will I finish the main quest? Supposedly the main quest is only about 20 hours.
Yep.
So at some point I'm going to have to make the choice that I'm ignoring everything else and just doing the main quest. I did that with Skyrim. So it just depends on whether or not the main quest is interesting enough to keep me doing that. It took me years to finish the main quests in Skyrim. Of starting the game, I think it was my 5th playthrough, I finally decided to finish the main quest of Skyrim. I did all the other side quests because they were way more interesting. So I don't know. We'll see. I hope. I want to see what happens at the end. I'm intrigued enough with the main quest line to want to know how it ends.
I would assume that 20 years from now we're probably going to see another one.
You mean Cyberpunk?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, unless CD Projekt Red decides that they want to add another horse to their stable.
Yeah,
but right
maybe.
now it seems to be Witcher and Cyberpunk. So, if they don't, then they're going to have Witcher and Cyberpunk, and they could totally be by Bethesda, like Bethesda, who's going back and forth between Fallout and Elder Scrolls. So now we've got, other things in there now, but I think we'll see another one. Will they be able to capitalize? We'll see. Like, do they want to be a Bethesda and capitalize on The Witcher in this game? They managed to really do a good job with The Witcher of being able to keep bringing it back. So,
yeah, we'll have to see how many spin-off games they do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll just say here real quick that my first impressions are that it seems like an average game to me, and I feel like I haven't really found the hook yet. It's like, honestly, I could quit playing it now and I'd be fine.
um,
Um,
I can see that. I I told you it's definitely not beating my contender for game of the year.
yeah.
Um, I wouldn't put it even number two. At this point, would it make my top five? Yes, but I'm still pretty early in the game. And I haven't played a couple other games that are look fairly intriguing yet. So,
hmm
of the ones that right now are on my list, it's competitive. Will it stay that way? Don't know. So I can totally see what you're saying about it being average. Um, there's things it does really well. There's things that it doesn't do well. And when you average that kind of out,
hmm
how involved you are with the world itself, I think is a very deciding factor. They very much went for a specific aesthetic and world state. And if you don't like that kind of world state, you are not going to like CD Projekt or Cyberpunk 2077 as much as Miles Morales, let's say, for example.
hmm
So, um, is it this as on par equal with The Witcher and how much everybody loves it? I don't think so. But I didn't play The Witcher um, personally. I watched other people play it. I watched Let's Plays, and I've read, people's blogs and whatever else about how they felt playing Witcher. And The Witcher was like the second coming of slasher medieval open world games.
I mean, it was the genre defining game, and that's why everybody's copied it since.
Correct.
It's like you look at the
I mean,
last three Assassin's Creeds, or
yeah.
Witcher Assassin's Creed.
Yep. Even to the point people went to say Inquisition was game of the year before The Witcher.
Mm-hmm.
And people saying that Inquisition didn't deserve the game of the year accolades that it was getting because it was not as good as The Witcher. Like that level of which is fighting words for me. But I'm not getting that for this game. It's early yet. But I mean, they managed to release a standalone DLC, what, 2-3 years after the game released originally, and people bought that up too.
Yep.
So I mean, I don't get that kind of love for this game. So we'll see. But like I said, I totally understand what you're saying. I'm sort of kind of still feeling my way through. It's good so far, but I'm early yet. So
Yeah, and something else that just popped into my head: Witcher had Gwent, and then they ended up making that into its own standalone game.
yeah.
Cyberpunk doesn't have a mini game of any description. Not that I know of. Like no card game, no
That's probably true.
like nothing that they could make a standalone game out of.
Yeah, no, probably that would probably be true. Um, I could see them though doing like if we wanted to say what could they do if we wanted to go purely from a potential standalone DLC, let's say, to be specific. It would be more story based, I would think, than something nice, easy, and get it out the door like Gwent. They could do a prequel of Johnny Silverhand's, like what happens,
Mm-hmm.
with him that you see glimpses of in the game, but like his deal, you could play as him. I could totally see that. Something like that. But could they put out something easy like Gwent or Fallout with the Pit Boy kid on mobile?
Fallout Shelter, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see that now. But folks are creative, so that could change. But at this moment in time, I agree with you. I don't see a nice, easy, similar path like they had in The Witcher.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they worked on The Witcher for 3 games. Like that was the third game. They knew the world. They, lived it, breathed it for 3 years. They defined that book series as much as the guy who wrote the original books that the game is based off of. Um, this is Witcher 1 level. This game would be analogous to, in my opinion, which they didn't have Gwent and they didn't have all of that stuff with the first game. So maybe it's early yet and they're going to come out with a paper and pencil game in 2 years or something.
I mean, technically, they already have that.
Yeah, it's true.
No, I see what you're saying. So what you're really saying is in like 30 years when we get Cyberpunk 3, it's going to be really good.
Right. I know, right? I mean, this one took almost 10 years. So, I mean, right. I don't know. I don't know. I think we're in for, I'm just interested. It's really interesting to read does the love come for this game to propel them forward to do more things with it? That's my question. People's opinion of this game, is it going to be enough, or are they looking for the Last of Us 2 masterpiece conversations? I'm not seeing that. Maybe you have. I don't know, no. But I'm not seeing that. And so what does that do for them going forward? I mean, we've got executives apologizing for bugs to the employees and saying we're not going to penalize you financially because we've only got a 90 on Metacritic.
Yeah. We've already earned back all of our money in one day.
Right. That would be a successful launch to me. There's a heck of a lot of games, Anthem, that would kill for a 90 on Metacritic. So I don't know. But I agree with you. I can see where it would be an average game. It's very much analogous to Skyrim kind of open world games, in my mind, the way it's playing. It's not recreated the wheel with some new unexpected element. It feels like an open world game from, that era. So,
yep,
and
absolutely.
Horizon Zero Dawn was too. That was one of the big complaints people had about it. It was very kind of Skyrim-esque open world. The thing that saved it was A, I think the story was absolutely great, and B, Robo Dinos, which was new.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay for you to build on what came before, but you got to bring some new. I have not seen something that made me went, wow, that's cool yet.
Yeah, I mean, other than maybe just walking around at night looking at the skyline, that's about it.
And having Keanu Reeves in your game, which is pretty cool if you're about Keanu Reeves, although I have thoughts about his performance so far too, but that's another show.
Yeah, I just met him, so yeah, like you said, we'll have to talk about it in a future episode. But yeah, I think we'll probably wrap up the first episode right there, guys. So like I said, this is the pilot episode of Adventures in Night City. There will be another one, but I don't know when. As I mentioned, this is going to be a short-term series, 5 episodes, maybe less, just kind of talking about the game. I mean, I definitely want to do an episode probably like in January, maybe even February, when some of us have beaten it, and then we come back and give like our final thoughts, experiences and stuff like that. But yeah, Elise, once again, thank you very, very much for coming on the show. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be on the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will be streaming a little bit more today, and so basically we're just going to take a quick little break, and I'll come back with some Ghost of Tsushima, I think.
Oh, enjoy.